In today's broad market sell-off, tech stocks were among the worst performers, and Nvidia may be to blame. The information report over the weekend, Nvidia's state-of-the-art Blackwell AI chip is facing delays. The report rattled tech names at the open, but the tech-heavy NASDAQ did manage to pare some of those earlier losses, closing down more than 3%. With me now to talk about all this is Dan Gallagher, columnist for the Wall Street Journal's Heard on the Street. Dan, it is great to see you. I kind of want to actually start bigger picture, Dan, because you've been following the markets for a long time, and just get your take on kind of action we've seen in big tech, because got hammered today, but it wasn't just today, Dan. I mean, when we made our way through this earnings season, it was just interesting the way investors seem to have some new questions about big tech and that mega trend of AI, Dan. They seem to be saying it's great that folks are testing AI and experimenting with it, but where's the usage? Where's the monetization? Where are the returns, Dan?
Yeah, I think that really summed up this earnings season really well. And it was kind of unsurprising if you think about it, because it was going to always take a while for generative AI to build up into some kind of business if it builds up. But all the investment for it has to come before that. And this is a lot of investment, billions and billions of dollars into buying these GPUs, building these new data centers. And so I think there was always going to be these periods where the spending was going to really outweigh any kind of business or revenue story. We definitely saw that in this one. All four, I'll call them the four kind of AI giants, and that's Microsoft, Alphabet, Amazon, and Meta, had that was the theme of all their reports. And three of those four companies, their stocks pretty much has fallen and stayed down since they reported. Meta's the only one that's up.
And what was different about Meta, Dan? Because, they reported stock popped. Why did investors give Meta the pass there? What's sort of the distinction? What's the differentiation?
I think there's a few things. One, I think they had the stronger report out of those four, because the others, especially if you nitpicked a bit, they had, some misses in certain segments that kind of like blunted the overall story. I mean, none of them were really bad reports, but they all, Alphabet missed on YouTube advertising. Amazon had misses across almost everything except the cloud. Meta had like a pretty clean report, strong beats against the expectations, and that stock is the only one that was down from the March quarter reports, because if you recall 3 months ago, Meta stock really took a hit because that's when they first signaled all the spending they were going to do. Honestly, they kind of paid the price early, I think.
And Dan, let's talk about Nvidia too. I want your take on that name. Got hit today. We did see those reports. Could be delaying Blackwell. What did you make of those reports, Dan? And what should investors right now, if they're in Nvidia, what was your takeaway?
I think one, there was already some smoke in this area about buzz about issues with the design and how the performance was doing, possibility could be delayed. We saw that with AMD too. So it wasn't terribly surprising we're seeing this. And honestly, a 3-month delay is hardly fatal for Nvidia. They are ahead of the competition by years. So if it turns out to be like the Blackwell comes out 2 or 3 months late, it's really just kind of shifting a little bit of revenue, I think, more than anything that's fatal. What I do think is going to be important to keep in mind, though, is that Nvidia is trying to essentially do new chips at a cadence that we've not really seen in this segment before. They're trying to do something new every year, which is kind of like a smartphone cadence. That's typically not what we've seen with data centers, especially these kinds of like super powerful supercomputing type chips. So what they're trying to do is super ambitious. I think we're going to see a lot more periods like this, both not just with them, but with other chip makers, where they're trying to move very fast. And there's going to be probably some stumbles and obstacles they hit along the way.
Dan, great to have you on the show. Thanks so much for taking the time to chat. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.